Hey exobiologists, welcome to the crew. I'm Sea Lord Janda, and this is my Let's Play of In Other Waters. We have just finished exploring the bloom, save for this possible source area that we can't access without a cutting tool, and we're now prepared to head over the drop-off into the deep ocean. Before we get started with that, I do want to apologize if the last two episodes probably are either in which we explored the bloom, especially the northern half of the bloom, are either non-existent or very severely scuffed. There was a significant issue with recording while that I didn't notice until quite late in the process, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to recover anything super usable from that. Unfortunately, this game only has one save slot, or I would just go back and do it again. So if those are either very bad or non-existent, I'm sorry, that's on me. This should be working just fine for today, though, so let's move on with our dive down into the drop-off. If we did... depending on what's missing there, we did discover this bloom vein, which this thing eats the microbes from the bloom and turns them into a defensive poison system. This bloom fan, which looks like a plant but turns out to be a burrowing animal, and it filters oxygen using this giant fan. And we also found well, the bloom froth itself is just an algae, which we're not done studying yet, but it's weird. And I could have sworn there was... Oh, yes, and these nesting weavers, which are like... sort of... Well, they're eusocials, so they're like ants or bees, and they have a nest that has a... They spin their nests out of a bacteria that eats the microbes in the bloom. So that's what we discovered, if it's not really in that video. Anyway, down to the drop-off we go. Are you back with me? We're 20 seconds from the ocean floor. Good. I was getting lonely in here. Aw. We're descending fast. The drop is huge. 1.5 kilometers down. Oh wow, yeah, we're at 1,400 meters and counting. Let's stay focused. We have no data on this zone of the ocean. The light of at least 667 cc's, 3 stars, barely makes it this deep. I've got my headlamps on. You'll have to be my eyes. I want to work my way along the slope to the northeast. We're looking for any trace of Minae or the ROVs she sent down here. Let's get to it. Okay. We just hit bottom at 1,510 meters. The entire reef up above was, I think, at 20, maybe 30, but we are much, much, much deeper now. Here's the base of the shelf. The sheer wall descends through the faint light to curve into the thick silt of the slopes. Beyond the reach of the suit's lamps, the slopes descend slowly into the dark towards the abyssal plain. Heavy currents of the upper ocean don't reach down here, leaving the water still and silent, sediment suspended in the column. A bioluminescent glow drifts through the silt, a faint but noticeable chemical blue. Look at that, a little bioluminescent creature. A drifting veil of material which appears to be a creature of some kind, pulsing faintly with pinpricks of light. Almost transparent apart from the bioluminescent lights. This veil stretches away from the tangle of the group, reaching towards new territories. Group? I didn't really see the group yet. Oh, there's a group, alright. In the headlamps of the suit, I can occasionally see a vein-like texture to the surface of these veils. What substances sustain them? The veils are gathered in groups which I'm calling tangles. They seem to be intentional formations, but for what purpose? Diaphanous veils twitch, suspended in the water. They're seeded with pinpricks of bioluminescence like distorted star fields. Can I go through them? Not easily, doesn't seem like. The lights the veils produce come directly from beneath their skin. They shift from transparent to light-emitting in undulating waves. Between these two veils, some clear water is visible, a temporary corridor between two hanging sheets. I guess I should check what's here. This seems to mark the edge of one of the veils. And here is surrounded on all sides by drifting sheets of bioluminescence. This space is a fluid, shifting interior. Though tangled and without any clear sensory organs, these creatures seem to have a strong control over their position in the water. Studded along the veils are the remains of creatures confused by the lights and caught by the transparent hunters. Okay, so they're acting almost like spider webs or something. Bioluminescent spider webs. A gap between the veils. Is it that these are two competing individuals, or is this just a temporary separation of a single group? That's a valid question. Don't know the answer. Ah, this one's digesting. At closer inspection, these veils are jeweled with the half-digested remains of other life, passing conveyor-like from one veil to the next. Now that's... takes the edge off how beautiful they might be, huh? Here the tangles receding, a few of its trailing veils hanging still in the dark water like the poised limbs of a dancer. Okay, how do I get through to the digesting one? Don't think... Can I just go through? Oh. I can, but it drains my power. That makes sense if they kill with electricity, maybe. 10% animal, 0% tissue. Okay, well, let's grab our samples and get out. This is digested remains of an unknown creature. Well, we'll get more veil samples. Ah, we'll call it the snare veil. Beautiful traps, yes. Wide, delicate silken panels of bioluminescent cells. They work in unison to entrap and digest creatures which come too close. Well, now that begs the question, what creatures are they entrapping, of course, but I'm sure we'll find that out in time. This veil is blinking, the same sequence of lights over and over. Perhaps a way of attracting curious prey into their grip? Why didn't Minae tell anyone about this place? The life here. It's the biggest discovery in human history. Yeah, probably would be. Do you think she's trying to protect it? That's very possible. But then why bring me here? Maybe she expects me to keep her secrets too. Well, you know each other well. She always had her secrets, but this feels bigger than that. Well, this is... I don't know what personal stuff she might have had, but this is a lot bigger than that. Away from the veils, the water returns to its inky darkness, resisting the strong lamps of the suit's... strong beams of the suit's lamps. There's a rock formation up here, though. Silt is gathered around the base of two large outcrops, forming a natural respite from the steady downward pitch of the slopes. Despite that, our depth hasn't actually gone down anymore. Dark basalt layers rise up out of the slope like fractured towers, each jagged layer carrying drifts of silver silt. These dark towers of angular stones are the telltale signs of volcanic processes active under the planet's surface. Yeah, I suppose they would be, huh? Basalt is entirely volcanic in origin, I think. ROV debris. What must be one of Minae's improvised remote vehicles lies twisted in the silt. Could it have been disabled by the veils? Yeah, that makes some sense. This debris, it's one I see the animal, but it's one of Minae's ROVs. Wait, to my left, is that? Oh god. Oh. Apparently it's Minae's body. She's here. She's alive? She's alive. We're reading life signs and she is breathing. That can't be right. How long has she been here, lying in the silt? We have to bring her back to the base. But I don't... Okay, focus, Ellery. What do we do? We can use the ROV to boost our signal to the base. Send for the drone, then we can start the ascent. Get me back to the ROV debris and hook us up with the terminal. Honestly, I figured we were going to find her dead, but... Sync complete. Okay, we're synced. Call the drone now. We need to get her out of here. Well, I don't see anything else urgent to do, so yeah, alright. I don't... You know, as I said right at the start of all this, I did play this before, and I legitimately do not remember the ending. Okie dokie then. You're back. I need to talk. I'm on the medical level. No, that's not where you usually are. Okay. She's totally unresponsive. I don't know what to do. I don't even understand how she's still alive. Did she actually free dive to 1,500 meters and then just get buried in silt? She should be really dead. I keep coming back to the image of her, blue, silent, staring out of the silt, the thin stream of bubbles flickering from her mouth. How long had she been there? The pressure alone should have crushed her at that depth. This doesn't make sense. But she is alive. I need to talk to her, but nothing. I want to understand. I want to know what's going on here. I haven't seen her in years, not since she left, and now, here she is. Do you ever imagine all the things you're going to say to a person when you see them again? Well, I'm an AI, so potentially no. No, of course you don't. You're a machine. Sorry. I came here for her. I don't know why I did, but I did. I think it's because I had hope. Had to hope. For something to change, for there to be an explanation. For those months we spent together to mean something again. Okay, Voss, maybe you're a little obsessed. Sorry, I'm not making any sense. This makes it twice. 2 times she's turned my life upside down. At least this time, I knew what I was signing myself up for. It's not like I had anywhere else to be. The further I am from that dying planet, the better. Is Earth ecologically screwed? Probably. What comes next? I can't tell you that. We keep going. She was looking for something out here. Something important enough to leave her like this. It's our turn to take that forward, to find that explanation. I think she built that lab in the Bloom to study those mineral skeletons. Artificers, she called them. But something was leading her deeper, beyond the drop-off. Let's start with those ROVs she sent out. Maybe they found something we didn't. I'll mark their last known positions on the dive map, and I'll be here until you're ready to go. Okay, so we've unlocked this whole dive area. We can go both east and west, and there's 2 different ROVs. This one had strange geological readings, this one just went dark. Noted. We don't really know what she was looking for, but I can read another one of Ellery's logs, which is halfway. We are at, we're past 50% in terms of the taxonomy, according to the startup screen, so we're probably about halfway through the game from my playtime relative to the first time we are too, yeah. She's still alive. I never thought I'd see her again. Not after she sliced the core from the base on Kepler 62F and took the shuttle to God knows where. I spent weeks slowly freezing in that base, waiting for the Bicol team to come get me. After that, it all fell apart. There was never any life on Kepler 62F. Minae had faked the whole thing. She wanted the data core she knew Bicol would provide when she gave them evidence of first contact. Bicol blamed me, and my work as a consulting biologist collapsed. I limped back to Earth to take a post-grad position on that dying planet. There's little need for marine biologists in a place where the only oceanic life is kept in tourist-choked reserves. Oh god, that's bad. That's where I stayed, watching the endless exodus of humans with enough money to leave, looking out across the dead ocean at the pinpricks of their shuttle's rocket flares. Until Minae called me here. I should blame her for everything, but I just want to know why. Perhaps now, if she ever wakes up, I can ask her. Oh, Dr. Voss here is down bad, huh? She literally screwed him over after their affair. And he just went and moped around back on Earth until she called him and he came running again. That's not ideal, Dr. Voss, but okay. Animalia novi collatata, the distributed bodies. Snare veil, velum quaeus. Snare veils are unique, soft-bodied creatures that resemble a thin sheet of silk studded with lights. Found in tangles of multiple individuals, their hypnotic swaying and flickering lights make them difficult to see in their entirety. But from my initial observations, they appear to be flat panels of bioluminescent cells, which are faintly veined with both a nervous and a digestive system. Veils survive by capturing creatures which swim onto their surface, somehow stunning or killing them, and then digesting them on the exterior of their bodies. I've also observed veils passing prey from one individual to another, suggesting that they have some form of social interaction between individuals. Analysis of the digested remains they leave behind might give some clues as to their predatory behavior. Interesting. So yeah, well, they have some sort of electric burst or something from what I think happened when we ran into one. So they stun or kill their prey that way. And then they have some sort of social structure, though, which is interesting. Food sample analysis, tissue sample analysis. Well, okay, I have a food sample analysis in the suit. Or just a food sample, that is, which we can analyze. Digested remains, yay. What's that tell us? Analysis of unknown remains found nearby a veil tangle shows that this creature captures and kills its prey through an electrical charge. Yeah, we did surmise that. This charge, presumably produced by electric organs that sit beneath the veil's outer membrane, can produce incredibly high voltage outputs. And the remains analyzed showed significant damage from these electrical discharges. The remains also suggest that the veils use electrical pulses to control the muscles and nervous systems of captured creatures, forcing them to swim deeper into the grip of the veil when captured. The veil's manipulation of electrical signals seems highly nuanced, and they may also use them for the detection of prey and even communication between individuals. In order to confirm these theories, analysis of veiled tissue is necessary, although this may prove difficult. Well, it's a little bit electrified, isn't it? So yeah, might prove difficult. This isn't really long enough for an episode, so... we'll see. I'm gonna cut and restart the recording just in case I decide it's an episode. But most likely we're gonna head east first. Alright. This is a new episode. Welcome, everybody. We are heading east after exploring the earliest phase of the drop-off and finding Minae's body. If it's not, then you know exactly what's happening. She didn't really make it very far after she dove, huh? Like, we have no idea why she thought it was sane in the first place, although she didn't die, but, she didn't make it all that far. Glinting debris from the disabled ROV traces back into the sand. She did make it to this wrecked ROV, to be fair, which might have been her first target. Unmistakably basalt, formed in some volcanic trench eons ago. This outcrop is outlined by the faint light of Gliese 667 cc's suns. Ah, and this is probably where we have to pick. I'm randomly choosing to go east first. East of the ridge, a small rise opens onto a flat plain of dimpled silt. In this direction, the pale floor descends rapidly away from the ridge towards a field of shadowy outcrops. Yeah, east first, randomly. A featureless expanse lit flatly by the suit's lamps. An occasional silver bubble breaks the surface of the flat silt, carrying a cloudy trail of sediment behind it. Repeated trails of unknown creatures mark the sand, wandering back and forth across the rippled surface. So there's life down here. I mean, we knew that already. Ooh. Sorry. There's all kinds of life down here, apparently. Bubbles of methane trickle out from beneath the silt, creating silvery columns wreathed in sand. Ahead, the seeps have created small craters in the seabed, where brine is gathering in clouded pools. Is this pools of brine, then? It sure is. A shimmering landscape of ghostly pools stretches out in the lamps, the dense brine sitting in the craters like undersea ponds. That is what it looks like, yeah. Brine pools. The methane seeps here must be forming them. So it's all methane, basically, actually. The pools themselves will be toxic and also anoxic. Let's navigate carefully. They're beautiful, fog-skinned puddles sunk into the seabed, but they are dangerous. Noted. The seeps imprint the geological patterns of the underlying rock into the silt, forming both deep pools and untouched rises. Immediately hurts our oxygen. Got it? Creature tracks. Patterns of dents in the sand show the paths of the feathery creatures that cross from pillar to pillar in slow and purposeful loops. Well, we haven't actually seen those, but okay. A complex pattern of pools fills the seabed, shimmering with toxic chemistry. Oh, is that a creature? Yes. I don't know if it's the feather. Maybe, yeah. This crab-like creature is moving slowly across the sea floor with a large, translucent crest protruding from its back. They seem to keep to themselves, Dr. Frost says. And here we have bristling, feathery fronds. These feathery fronds are growing along the edge of the brine, waving their matted leaf-like limbs through the water. A colony or a single creature? Hard to say. Each of the many limbs of these branching creatures is carefully dipped into the brine pools one by one before pulling back. Okay, so they consume the methane, maybe? Occasionally, this creature will sweep its limbs back into the hairy mass of its body before thrusting them out again. What is it doing? Well, I would think eating the methane. I can't be sure. The waving shapes of complex fronds caress the surface of the pools, sweeping the brine into wispy shapes. A mucus bubble sits on the silt, shed from the back of the bubble-skinned creatures which are trekking the perimeter of the pools. While some pools transition into bare sand, others are choked with fronds. Okay, give me this sample. Always grab samples when available. Pretty sure the real purpose of this game is to fill out the taxonomy thing. Mucus bubble, multi-chambered, 40% tissue. Creature. On closer inspection, the large translucent crest appears to be a gas-filled organ or bubble of some kind rising from a slit in the shell. Can I go south? No. Okay, it's only north. It's not actually, I think this just immediately leads back up to there, yeah. There's no real variance here. Is this a giant pool right here? I think it is. The thick hairs of each frond seem to be mottled with a reddish substance. Does it grow there amongst the hairs? Among the pools, a pillar of shining bubbles rises up towards the surface. When a limb's removed from the brine, the red substance matted into the hair seems to glow brighter, shifting in color. Okay, not 100% sure why that would be, but... Bright orange carpets of microbial growth gathered beneath the waving fronds stretch away from the pool. We can sample them here. Okay, grab ourselves some microbial mats. Question mark, 15% bacterial, 10% colony. And it is a brine mat, orange, bacterial. From this slight elevation, the gleaming surface of a huge brine lake can be seen out to the east. Okay, that is what this is. dipping motion of the fronds as they filter the brine creates a hypnotic sense of motion along the edge of the lake. Can I go? I can't go that way. That's interesting. It seems that the substance caked into these creatures' hair is reacting to the brine somehow. Perhaps it's helping them feed? Here's a bank which skirts along the edge of a large shadowed pool, and here, a bubble shed from the back of a creature sits at the edge of the lake, brine curling around its base. We already have a mucus bubble, but I'll go this way anyway because it seems more dangerous. Yay. Aha. That lets us see. Stilt-legged stone. A tall, crab-like creature which towers above the brine pool. An unusual assortment of rocks, shells, and bones adorn its back. How can they survive out here, Dr. Voss asks. Yet another crab. These wandering creatures noisily chew away at the rock and silt of the ocean floor, filtering it for nutrients, perhaps? Branching. Okay, so we're calling the fronds the brine eaters, which makes sense. Seems like they eat brine. Branching, feathery fronds which grow alongside brine pools, carefully dipping their matted-stained limbs in and out of the brine. Ah, hold on now. A faint, pulsing glow, like lightning in a storm, can be seen beneath the cloudy brine. Well, time to wade in quick. It doesn't kill us, it just causes oxygen deprivation. That's fine. 25% animal. Okay, back out, please. Get a shell. Glowing shell found among the brine stained with chemicals, probably of the crab things, eh? Here the complex of pools melts into the lake, which shines with toxic intensity. Can anything live out there? Well, yes, apparently the stilt-walking things can. This brine lake is vast. I can't see the other side. What might be hiding within its toxic fog? Do you think life might survive out there? Yeah, we already saw some. It's true that this planet has shifted my ideas about what's survivable. Perhaps there is something out there waiting to be discovered. Brine pools mark the plain on all sides, densely packed around the vast lake. Okay, we gotta go east, but I just want to check what's north quick, since we kind of skipped that. This rise projects out towards the vast brine lake to the east, cutting between deep pools. And another crab. Different individuals of this species seem to have varying sizes of bubbles on their backs. Are they carrying oxygen in there? Fair guess, probably. Along the edge of the larger pools, the shells and skeletons of creatures loom out of the silt, victims of the toxic brine. Yeah, that circles back around to there, so... What's that? Whoa, whoa, whoa. A fast creature. Rapid swimming and lobster-like, with dark shells, very large translucent tails. How do they move so fast? They're dark and hard to see, but yeah, I'll keep track of them. Okay, so then the question, north or south, sort of? Wasn't there a way directly along the shore? Yep. Something out in the dark, sending slow waves to this burning beach. What could live out there? Oh boy, this is going to be painful, isn't it? Okay, well. The water is a blinding, milky white flow in the headlamps. Wading in we go. I swear I can hear the brine eating away at the suit. Yep, and there's a stone. I'm seeing this creature take dead remains from the brine pool and decorate itself with them. Trophies of shell and bone. Damn, that's kind of brutal. The ocean floor rises back out of the pale brine into a series of rounded pools. Maybe let's get ashore, eh? We lost about half our oxygen doing that. This meager patch of high ground provides a dreamlike respite from the milky waters. Strange creatures call across the lake. Ah, a shed carapace. A small, smooth carapace sits between the pools, half sunk in sand. Could this island be a refuge for juvenile creatures? Very believable. 0% animal, 0% shell. Well, I'm guessing it's an animal shell. Stony carapace shed by a creature near the brine pools. And another bubble. The creature has shed its bubble crest out on this desolate island. The creature, The carrier is nowhere to be seen, perhaps lost to the brine. It's just another, it's just another mucus bubble. I'll grab another one, because I think we only have one, but... The stones are interesting. Blue smears... Is it making that noise? That's interesting. Blue smears glow faintly on the remains piled on this strider's back. Are these bioluminescent creatures, or a chemical phenomenon? From this small pool at the lake's edge, a pale blue pulse is flashing. I swear I see lights blinking in response out above the brine lake. Okay, that's not suspicious. Let's sample it. Oh, it's just another shell, though. Okay. Nothing south, so... The lake appears to be pretty much endless. South. The sand between the pools runs down into the lake. Is this island being slowly swallowed, or is that just my paranoia? Dunno, but we're diving back in anyway. Is there anything out here? I see tall shapes in the dark. Well, yes, there's those stilt walkers, but... Pale beacons flicker across the lake. What are those? Okay, we're gonna run out of oxygen real quick unless we get out of here. The sharp shapes of remains jut out from the pale brine like mountain peaks below clouds. The edges of the lake are like a miniature landscape of craters and depressions. Oh boy. This is gonna be a big problem. Oh, we made it. This small bank of silt is slowly slipping away beneath the cloudy surface of the brine pools. Yeah, we made it without triggering the death thing, but we're out of oxygen. I don't think I can replenish that, so... We're gonna have to recall our cell. Oh, I can't. Okay, well, we're just gonna have to let it fail then. A thin strip of sand pushes out into the lake, surrounded by toxic pools. This lake's bigger than any seep I've seen on Earth. The volume of methane trapped in the bedrock must be impossibly vast. The haze lifting from the lake and the pools all around make visibility very poor. Vague shapes flit in and out of columns of bubbles. Between the wall of the ridge and the corroded shelf is a wide strip of pale and silvery silt. Pools, like fogged cauldrons, muddle the seafloor. Bacterial mats bring bright smears of color to the scene. The curve of the lakeshore extends out of sight, and the other side of this vast depression is too far out into the dark to be seen. I wasn't right. I was here, I guess. But... The edge of the lake is stained with brightly colored bacterial mats which recede beneath the cloudy, toxic masts of the brine itself. Any second now, one of these random things is going to cause us to fail, but there's nothing I can really do about it, I don't think. This hole cuts deep into the bedrock of the plain. Could this be caused by a seep? It looks more like an impact crater. Probably this one. Yep. Okay. Well... This is your fault for not, well, it's my fault for going out into the lake, but... Even though Ellery warns you, or, like, asks you not to do this, there's absolutely no consequences to doing this repeatedly, so... They accept that you have to make your way back, but none of the distances involved are actually objectively that far. It'll take us like 30 seconds to get back there. this is roughly where I was, yeah? Yeah, this is where I was, I think. Oh yeah, that's exactly, this is where I was going right before we expired. Among the ornate fronds, I could see the neon orange of microbial carpets spreading out from the pool in compact, complex growth patterns. That's just more microbial maths. Yeah, I'll grab one more maybe. North or east? East, I guess. Hemmed in by toxic pools, this small rise looks out across a landscape of deep craters and unrelenting darkness. A radial pattern of depressions in the rock suggests debris expanding outward from an impact point. Is this whole thing, is this lake a giant crater? Could be. A stained slab of basalt juts out of the brine pools, providing a tiny safe zone from the toxic liquid. A mucus bubble shed from the back of a creature sits on top of a small pile of silt as if it were an egg. Okay, I find it irresistible to go to this stupid flat rock for some reason. Is there something out there? Nope, that's just a death trap. Okay. This small plain is strangely clear of creature tracks. They must not cross into this northern zone. We already have mucus bubbles. Pools seem to cover a huge part of the seabed, radiating out from the lake in ornate patterns. Just checking. Oh, dang. I thought this would just connect to the south, but maybe it's a little more complicated. Some of these more northern pools are emptying of brine, leaving only shallow layers at their base. This does connect back to where I would have come up from the south, though. The pools seem to continue to the north, but why do they stretch so far away from the main body of the lake? Oh, dang. There's a lot of options to go north, apparently. Oh, the disabled ROV. The ROV must have been attracted by some signal among the pools, but it became another victim of the corrosive brine. Rough. One of Minae's ROVs looks like this one was disabled by the brine. The supplies Minae equipped it with are still intact, though. We can resupply. Open the terminal and let's see what this little guy found down here. Okay. Give power. Give oxygen. Give map data. What'd you find, little guy? Oh, wow. You found something big, didn't you, little guy? It looks like... Is that a wreck? Incredible. The debris field stretches all the way northwest from here. It must have been large, a freighter or a research vessel. We have to go see this thing. Come on, we can head back to base after. Okay, so there's a human-constructed wreck to the northwest. Whatever caused the string of impact... Oh, and it's what caused the string of impact craters, isn't it? Whatever caused the string of impact craters, parts of it lie all around. Huge, jointed forms of corroded metal. Here's the edge of the debris trail. Something sank here, and by the spread of debris, exploded. It's been here for years, decades. The metal's corroded to little more than a frame. That means Minae wasn't the first person to come here. Something big happened here. Something no one was meant to find. Well, yes and no. Something crashed. It could be that they all just died and never reported it. I'm going back because it seems like that's the way to go for story progression. But I know there were a couple more points right over here that I didn't really explore. Hold on. This silt bank allows passage between the two parallel strips of craters leading north. The brine gathers in this small crater like a settled storm. It would be beautiful if it wasn't so toxic. Dang, there's so many bloody ways to go in here. A thin causeway leads between the pools, away from the lake. Unlike the shallow seep marks in the south, these deep craters plunge through the silt into the bedrock. Is this going to lead back to somewhere I've been? Yes, okay. Something's emitting a faint glow beneath the brine, with the sharp shape of a shell or perhaps skeletal remains. This is just going to be another shell, isn't it? Yeah. We've got like 3 of those. Empty of brine, this crater was clearly caused by a large impact, showing radial cracks in the rock spreading from a single point. Okay, so what's north then? Ah, an isolated oasis. Despite the toxic brine on all sides, this glowing oasis clings to its rock even as it's melted away. Oh, look at this. Plants. Pale petals. Trefoil petals which gather around the glowing fans of the deep. They angle themselves towards the light like expectant children. What are these petal-shaped creatures? They only grow around the glowing fans. Oh, and here, a bright fan. Like the fans found in the bloom, these creatures are fan-shaped filter feeders. However, these variants glow with a cold fire. They seem to play a central role in the ecosystem here. Okay, so there's fans, and then there's petals which grow specifically around the fans. Precariously seated among the pools, this fan shows signs of decay, its amber waves of light stuttering and flickering unevenly. Regrettable. 30% mucal, 0% tissue. That's interesting. It's a sheath studded with pollen. Ah, that is the end of where we can go here. So now we go into the story area. See, usually the side tracks in this game are just pretty short side tracks with useful samples to be had. So that's why it's best to explore quickly on those. Then this will be the main way forward. This huge piece of debris has been distorted and twisted by the brine, leaving it totally unrecognizable. It'd be nice to know what ship it was, eh? Bulbous, rust-red lumps are scattered across the pale sand like seeds thrown to the wind. The spars of the frame stick out of the sand like fractured ribs, fronds, and other growths, closing the gaps between them. Is this all debris then? It looks kind of angular, man-made. Yeah, the stilt-legged creature. Is this the stilt-legged or the crab-like creature? I don't know. I'll call these mournful creatures brine striders, walking lanterns calling out in the dark. A stilt-legged crab-like creature that clears the brine pool of dead remains, providing a habitat for glowing life on its wide shell. Okay, this is the stilt-legged creature. Pretty sure there's a separate crab creature. Maybe I could be wrong about that. The broad, flat plates of the wreck sit at right angles to each other, forming a complex of angular walls. Yeah, this will be the wreck then. A curved strip forms a narrow walkway between the pools beside the wreck. Now, this is the crab creature. Yeah, they are separate. Each one of these shelled creatures seems to have its own territorial loop, an area of seafloor it systematically searches through. A warm glow lights the cracked and corroded skin of the twisted plates into sharp relief. Plants, another one of the pear types. Significantly taller than the bloom's fans. Oh, those were pretty tall already, though. These creatures seem to favor the rocky substrate of the ocean floor's basalt pillars. Each of the wide petals has patterns of stomata and stamen across its surface, and from these, some kind of pollen is drifting out in clumps. The fan's tucked itself into the side of a vast corroded plate, forming an oasis in the shadow of the wreck. Is this just another, it's just another fan sheath we have one. Fronds crowd this piece of debris, some eaten away by the local grazers. Broken limbs lie all around. We can sample one of the smaller pieces. Ah, look at that. We are going to have to drop something, but we have a couple of duplicates. I'll drop this brine mat. And we will grab, question mark, 20% animal, 3% tissue. It is a bristly limb, a piece of hairy branch broken off from a creature. Yeah, and that's the end of this. So now we've gotten our sample, and we have to go into the wreck head on. This way. A split in what must have once been the vessel's hull allows passage into the overgrown interior. The brine has left everything but the vaguest shape of the vessel impossible to define. We're entering the main body of the wreck now. It's little more than a husk. It's impossible to tell anything from these rusted plates. Whose ship was this? The local ecosystem looks to have been scraping away at this thing for decades. Nothing much left for us. We'll see. Ovoid creature. These ovoid creatures sit pulsing on the edge of the deep oases. They're glassy and soft, like partially boiled, shell-less eggs. They do sound kind of passive. They don't sound very impressive, huh? This bay, perhaps once a cargo hold, is being scraped away at by frond-like creatures, releasing flakes of orange rust into the water. Another ovoid. When close to these creatures, you can feel the pull of their strong filtering action as they absorb water and push it through their bodies. Now, if they're filter feeders, that's why they're so passive, I guess. Half buried in sand, the industrial seals on the equipment locker have held. It must have been protected from the crash within this bay. Well, could we learn anything from that? Yeah. Look, a steel sealed dive suit locker. Let's see if we can get it open. Okay, I think I can lever. Yes, it's open. But there's not a lot here. Wait, this cutting torch looks, aha! Clean enough. With a little work, this could be salvaged. Is this Bakel tech? Hard to tell. Looks compatible with this suit, though. I'll stow it and see what I can do with it when we get back to base. Fantastic. That's definitely what we need to cut through those things that we can't cut through, that we found. The plates of the wreck buckle and bend outwards here, bent away by some huge interior force. The craters clustered around the vessel suggest an explosive force of some considerable magnitude. Well, if it's a space-going vessel and it collided with a planet at high velocity, then yeah, it'd be a big explosion. Most of the wreck must have already been lost to the brine. Only this section remains, precariously settled on a silt bank. More ovoids. These creatures seem to produce small branching buds in the same way that a hydra grows a clone of itself in order to reproduce. Interesting. At this creature's interior sits a sphere surrounded by a reflective membrane, bathed in light from the transparent sections in its body. Okay, that's weird. And the crab. Lung crest. Well, that makes sense. I'd like to call these lung crests. These bubbles they carry on their backs are so cumbersome. Yeah, they carry big oxygen bubbles on their backs, so lung crest is a funny, good name, actually. A shelled, crab-like creature which scavenges the ocean floor in search of nutrients. It carries a mucus-lined bubble on its back. Could this set of seeps have been created by the wreck's impact? Perhaps it breached the bedrock, protecting the methane below. Yeah, makes a lot of sense to me. Oh, God. In. Okay. A crested shell sits on the edge of the brine pool. Its former inhabitant nowhere to be seen. We could sample it here. Okay, do we have... Don't we have shells? Or are these different shells? Maybe these are different shells. Let me drop one of my spare mucus bubbles. And we'll see if this is different. It is. Okay, 20% animal, 10% shell. A shell striped with crests found among the brine pools. Okay, so that was just that. Could be crazy, but I don't think we've missed anything down here yet. We are running out of space pretty rapidly, though. Whatever its origin, the wreck here has become a sanctuary for the ocean's life. There's beauty to its reclamation. None of this adds up. If there's a wreck here, then there were people. Well, they could have all died on impact and not gone reported, but yes. And if there were people, well, why doesn't everyone know about this place, about its incredible life? Well, you wouldn't think somebody would have gone looking. We've spent centuries looking for life outside of Earth and found nothing. I've seen so many dead planets, so many barren worlds. I've certified each of them clear of life, just so an exoplanet extraction corp can pick them clean for maximum profit. Strip mine them for the resources our ever-expanding species needs. This place is impossible, one in millions, and yet it's already marked by our greedy fingerprints. Who brought this ship here? This has to be the history Minae wanted to uncover. Let's head back to base. There's more to find, I'm sure of it. Well, okay. He sort of spelled out the obvious motivation right there. If there's a greedy exocorp that is still limited enough by regulations that it has to certify a planet clear of life before it can strip mine it, then maybe they want this planet certified clear of life so they can strip mine it. On the other hand, the only obvious problem with that is that they haven't strip mined it. There's no other humans here, so hard to say. North of here, the debris field fades away as the ocean floor slopes towards the abyssal plain. Is that the end of this then? Yep. Okay. In that case, yeah, back to the ship. I think we've explored the east pretty well. We'll see if we missed anything. I can see the stream and the recording is actually still working properly this time, so that's a plus compared to the last session. Something's happened. Come to medical now. Oh god. Minae is growing. I haven't dared to go in. Oh, that sounds real bad. I can't make sense of the readouts. Her vitals are unreadable, but she is still alive. Whatever kept her alive on the slopes is changing her somehow. I've been sat here watching her. I don't know what to do. Do you think she's in pain? Bro, I have no idea. I hope so. She doesn't seem to be suffering, but then I don't know what this is. There are procedures. Every base stack's equipped with quarantine systems. I can authorize the lab to be purged. End it now. Is that still Minae? I can't. What do you think? Should I authorize the purge? Well, if it kills you, it won't kill me. No, you're right. That's Minae. I didn't come all this way just to... We need to monitor her, to try to understand what's happening here. Thank you. I won't give up on her. I won't be afraid of what I don't understand. We can find the answers together. Okay, we can do this. I've hooked up that cutting torch from the debris field. I hope it helps. I need some answers. Let's find that other ROV. Wait, let me go to medical. Minae Nomura. Bunch of weird, bubbly stuff. Error. Vital signs unclear. Foreign genetic material detected. Rapid tissue growth. Error, 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 error. That's fine. Look, if it's some sort of biological plague or something, and it kills Dr. Voss, we're a robot, we'll be fine. Won't affect us. Let's read his notes. Is Minae still Minae? What has this place done to her? I've barely been able to leave the medical level, though I dare not enter the surgery room. Did she do this by choice? For those few months on Kepler-62f, it was clear Minae was struggling with something. We never spoke about it, but behind her intensity lay a frenzied self-doubt. She never talked about her family. All I knew was that she was a rare spacer, born out in the black on some orbital military base. Some days she wouldn't leave the berth, just curled up so small, staring silently out. Would she do this on purpose? Open up her suit and willingly slip into the deep? Suppose it doesn't matter now. All I can do is monitor her. At least I'm not alone. EV. So what do we think is gonna... I mean... She should have been dead down there. Very dead. Whatever this thing is, it's the only thing keeping her alive. In all honesty, I tell him not to purge it because I'm not sure it's hostile, even if it's probably transforming Minae substantially. So let's look at our taxonomy. We didn't get enough to get everything, because we didn't get enough data on the fan things. Maybe there'll be more of them in the west, though. Arthropelta, the jointed shells. We got the lung crest, Pulmodorsum cristatum. Lung crests resemble large crabs in their basic anatomy. Well, crabs are everywhere, right, folks? Convergent evolution and all that. Though they're instantly recognizable by the carcinization? Yeah. Though they're instantly recognizable by the large multi-chambered bubbles they carry on their backs. The function of these bubbles is unclear, but each individual produces slightly different bubble forms, and individuals have also been observed with their bubbles at different levels of inflation. They seem to be filled with gas, but without analyzing one directly, we cannot know which gases. To feed, lung crests use their complex mouth parts to chew up silt and rock, slowly and systematically working through their territory. These territories seem to be unique to each creature, and I've yet to see one lung crest trespassing on another individual's garden. A direct sample of their mucus bubbles might help us understand more about their behavior. Bubble and shell sample. I think that I have... Oh, well, I do have both, but I need to take them out of the... We have 9 samples. I think 8 of them or something were unique, honestly. Let's see here. Mucus bubble, yes. Analyze, please. Okay, and then we also had... You think this is their shell? We found another shell, too. I think this might be it. Oh, nope, that was the brine strider. Okay. Then this is it. Yeah, crested shell. Okay. Yeah. Alright, so that's the lung crest done. Behavior. After finding a shed lung crest bubble, it's been possible to analyze its contents. The majority of the bubble is filled with oxygen, which makes sense, yeah, that was our initial theory, with some amounts of methane, nitrogen, and carbon dioxide. It seems that in its processing of minerals and compounds found in the silt and rock of the ocean floor, lung crests are able to produce and process these gases, perhaps with the help of a bacterial symbiont living inside their bodies. But what are they producing these bubbles for? It could be that they're defensive structures, able to be shed and popped when the relatively slow-moving and vulnerable lung crests need to escape. But then why the carefully managed cocktail of gases? Further investigation is needed. In particular, we should look to inspect a lung crest shell. Okay, so they've got the bubble, full of oxygen, some other stuff. They'd get the minerals from the silt and turn it into these gases. But then why actually, if they can produce the gases, then why do they need the bubble? It could be a territorial display, or like a threat display, or it could be just for storage when they move across the brine pools that are anoxic. Okay, theories. Sampling a lung crest shell has made the function of their mucus-lined bubbles clear. After seeing lung crests scavenging around and even entering into the brine pools, it seems obvious that their bubbles are in fact natural scuba gear, allowing them to move around the anoxic environment of the brine lake. Okay, that's the second thing I said then. The shell confirms this with a clear vent in the shell which allows the lung crest to access the gas within the bubble without breaking it. This unique evolution means that despite their slow speed and sheer ignorance of what goes on around them, lung crests are highly resilient, their thick shells and bubble crests together forming a kind of analog of my own dive suit. I'll be sure to say hello to these fellow divers the next time we visit the brine lake. Oh, that's a weird... I thought it was a more nicely shaped bubble. But I guess it's mucus, yeah. So it's a crab-type creature with a big mucus bubble on its head. And it eats rocks off the ground. Kinda cool. And then the other Arthropelta we found was the brine strider, Colobathrarius latus. Brine striders are towering, crab-like creatures which live among the brine pools. Their tall, reed-like legs keep their carapace from the toxic waters that claim most other creatures. The bones and shells of creatures that died at the brine pools adorn the strider's carapaces, pulled from the brine by a pair of extended claws. Among these rocky piles, smears of bioluminescence glow blue. This pulsing life, whatever it is, finds shelter in the remains the striders collect. Why do the striders make these creatures a home in the first place? I'm also curious how, if the Striders are vulnerable to the brine, do adolescents reach the heights required to survive? In order to understand more about these obscure creatures, perhaps we need to analyze the glowing, brine-clogged remains they gather. So we got their shell. Analysis of a brine-clogged shell reveals a complex chain of chemical reactions. Among this chemical richness, a form of extremophile bacteria feeds on the brine's chemical traces. When the Striders collect these remains, they also collect the bacterial colonies that live on them. Removed from the brine, but still feeding on the chemical-saturated shells and bones. These bacterial colonies produce a bright glow, a side effect of their metabolism. Do the Striders know they're turning themselves into pale beacons? What's the nature of the relationship between these bacteria and the Striders? I need to understand more about the life cycle of a Strider and how they grow to such heights. Okay, so this just explains basically that the remains that they're collecting have a bioluminescent bacteria on them that feeds on the brine caked onto the remains, but why do they collect them? Yeah. We need a carapace. I think we have that. Let's see here. Bristly limb, fan sheath. Young carapace, yes. Analysis of a juvenile Strider's carapace paints an enigmatic but beautiful picture. The adornments of shell and bone only begin as the brine Strider matures, each arrangement being the life's work of that individual. Though the Striders often live apart from each other, it seems that they still communicate. Their adornments, which grow taller and brighter, act as beacons. They can signal for food, signal to mate. They keep company from afar. Gathering the remains in their glowing bacterial colonies is a ritualistic process, a way for each of these large and ponderous creatures to create an identity within this ecosystem, through a living, growing work of biological sculpture. Sorry about the yawning, folks. It is 3:30 a.m., but that's just me. World Cup is on, you understand. Off to my side. Okay, so that's interesting. But that again suggests a good deal of intelligence. Like, a lot of the life on this planet seems to be awfully smart. If they're doing intentional artistic display in a conscious fashion, that's pretty rare. Yeah, they look like a giant spider crab or something. Gathering limbs, lower legs, and they just pile dead stuff on them to make a bioluminescent beacon. 4 to 6 meters in height. Yeah, those are big. Real big. That's about 12 to 18 feet for any of you who only speak American, although that's a rough conversion. And then the brine, in the Setophora, or bristle carriers, we discovered the brine eaters. Plumosis muriavoris. Brine eaters are hairy, frond-like creatures that live in clumps around at least 667 cc's deep ocean brine pools. Looking like large, dark, overgrown ferns, they sway their branching limbs through the pools, whisking the cloudy brine as they do. Each frond is thick with bristles, which are often caked in a bright orange substance that reacts to the brine on contact, brightening as it does. What exactly this substance is or does is difficult to tell, but it seems that the eaters intentionally foster its growth on their limbs, using their matted hair to keep it attached. Individual eaters can be hard to isolate from the clumps they live in, making additional observations difficult. Understanding more about these creatures will require us to gather some samples. Interesting. So the bright orange substance isn't just the brine, it's something they have. So then we need bacteria and tissue. I feel like we might have missed the tissue. Oh no, is that it? Might be. Was that an error? Maybe that was the wrong thing. Oh no, it's where the heck did it go? Oh boy. Oh, here it is. Okay, so we did get an error, didn't we? Yeah, we didn't find that thing yet. Oh, but this might be. That is it, okay. And then we got the brine map. Okay, so we did get everything for the brine eaters. We picked up one thing that belongs to those 2 plants, but we didn't find enough of those 2 plants to create taxonomic entries on them. I'm guessing they live in the west also. We'll find out. Analyzing samples of the bacteria which grows among the hairs of the brine eater's fronds has shown that it is their main source of nutrition. This bacteria, which is extremophile in nature, is able to metabolize the toxic brine the eater dips it into. The eater repeatedly dips the bacteria into the brine in order to regulate its growth, which, with each dip causing a rapid increase in reproduction within the bacterial colony. When the eater's limb is thick with orange microbes, then wipes it across another frond, where much of the bacteria is quickly digested by the creature, leaving just enough behind on the limb to regrow the colony. It seems the name brine eater is a misnomer. It's the bacteria which eats the brine, and eaters just consume the bacteria. Bit of a 2-step program there, yeah. So they intentionally grow this bacteria, which breaks down the brine, and then they eat the bacteria in turn. Inspecting the tissue of a brine eater shows that despite a full nervous system, they have no central brain. In fact, regeneration present in the tissue sample suggests that a brine eater could be regrown from just a single piece of an individual. This highly resistant to predatory damage. With no central self to orient themselves around, brine eaters are a highly resilient form of life, which is perhaps how they've come to exist in one of the harshest environments of Gliese 667cc, the shore of a brine lake. They're so resilient, in fact, that I would expect that brine eaters and their variants might be found all across this ocean, each one grown from the smallest fragment of one original individual deep in the past of this planet. Yeah, that's pretty tough. Branching structure, bristly, hairless, digestive frond, bacterial growth. Well, that's the only issue. It seems like they need something like this pool in order to grow the bacteria that they eat, but maybe they're capable of eating other things if they were in another location. Hard to say. So next out, well, actually, tell you what, now that we have the cutting torch, we can examine this source of the bloom, whatever this is, and the thing that's over here, and we can go west and check out this other ROV. I think we'll probably do the things that are up here first and then go west, but time will tell. I like this zoomed out map of everything. You can see the giant lake and all. It is awfully big, yeah. Anyway, that'll do it for this time, folks. Thank you very much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe if you did enjoy the video, and have a nice day.